What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 2300 Gear Jammer channel. We're off to a pretty good start this year. The black Mustang is running. The SVO is running. That's mostly bad. Kinda. And the Ranger was running when I parked it. But for now, let's get back on the Pinto. And I've avoided doing the fuel system for this for a long time. It's going to be stainless steel, the braided steel lines. And it's kind of a pain to do, and it's really repetitive. It's a lot of the same thing over and over again. But it's going to be fun. We're going to go step by step and work through it. I will do part numbers and parts the same way I've been doing. So let's check it out. All right, when you do something like this, it helps to just draw a quick diagram, just sketch it out. Put your tank and your fuel rail, filters, everything, all the hard parts that you know are going to be in there. And then you can work around it and try to get all of the fittings that you need and then do your order. And obviously when I do this, I order a bunch of stuff. So I've got piles of it, but to check it off to make sure there isn't something strange, this is how I do it to make sure I got all of my pieces. This is copied off of the Mustang, so it's an aftermarket fuel rail and pressure sensor mounted in the rail, and the regulator may look a little bit different than what we're going to do. I've used this to make sure I've got enough stuff to work on it today, and we'll go through some of the parts. I keep so much of this stuff, I probably have 5 of everything, but we'll just go through and see what we're working with today. All right, the typical 2.3 Pinto, that's the only kind of pump that it needs, that and some matches. So that's plan A. If you're doing a fuel injection system that's got an in-tank mounted, this is the second style, and this is mounted on a hanger. And then if you're doing lines like we're gonna do today, there's an inline pump that is made to mount out of the tank, and there's 2 different styles of those that I've got here. So there's a big one and a small one. So this should be good for a stock Pinto. This I've done pretty reliably in the tank, stock lines, stock fuel rail up to 450 horse, somewhere around that neighborhood at the wheels. And this one, this is a Bosch 044. You got to be careful that you get a genuine version. And I made a little over 500 horse with this. And then this pump is good to 1,500 horse, so I don't think I'll ever see, I could probably run everything I've got at the same time on this pump. And this is the old one off of the Mustang. I put a brand new one on that, same as I've done with a lot of this other stuff. The old parts go on the shelf to be used later, so it's later. As far as inline pumps, the Bosch 044 is the smallest one I've got. We'll start there. I may end up going to something smaller. If this car's only gonna make 100 horsepower, then we don't wanna be pumping that much fuel up and back, so that's okay. There's the basics on that. All right, the intermediate step between the stock tank with the in-tank pump for the black car was this style, which is stock tank and then a sump welded on, and then a Bosch 044, and I mounted it really, really close. It'll be a filter and the pump and another filter and then the line that runs up to the front. But this setup, I think it exceeded the pump. It was right on the edge of what I expected it to do. And I think because the pump was mounted so low and so close to the sump that it was able to do what it did, I was really, really impressed. This has by far been the best per dollar purchase in fuel system stuff over the years. Here's a fuel cell in the Mustang. Remember, this car's got 2 fuel systems, one for pump gas, one for race fuel. But the Pinto's gonna be set up pretty much the same. We're just gonna ignore all the stock stuff that's in this car too. All right, the fuel cell is a Jazz 8-gallon plastic cell, and I got this thing on eBay like 15 years ago, and it looked about this bad when I got it. I got extremely lucky. It fit down in the spare tire well. I had to hammer that out just a little bit, and I cut 2 holes for the fittings, but I'm not gonna permanently mount this thing just yet. The fuel system is gonna go through some changes, so we're just gonna go a step at a time. I think that's it. I can't remember if this one had foam in it or not. Uh-oh. Okay. All right, we're gonna use a brand new one. I had this for something else, but I guess that's how everything's gonna go. It's gonna be a long day. Yeah. Another thing to think about is the type of fuel rail. There's a few different style stock ones. This kind's got the spring lock in it and the 2 O-rings. And I ordered adapters for these. They didn't show up in time for today, but I'll put those on the screen. That'll be for a -8 feed line and a -6 return line. I'm not 100% sure that they're the same as a V8, but I think they are. And then the other style is these that have a nylon push-on clip and a retainer. And this is a taller intake, so this would be a Mercure style, most likely. And the fuel lines point up on this one, so I think that's what that was. But you pull these plastic lines off that typically break, and then you get this style, which it's got the little nylon thing in there, and it'll just push on. Ooh, after you get all the dirt out of it, it'll just push on and lock into place. And the return line is pretty slick too. This one I like better because it screws together, and that's a real positive lock there. So these are -6s on both sides. When I run a stock rail, I just run -6s and adapt my -8 line down to the 6. That was the easiest one to get at the time, so that's how I'd been running it. And the other option is an aftermarket fuel rail that I run on the Mustang, but I don't think there's any point on this car for a long time. I ordered parts to make a rail, but I don't think I'm gonna need it for right now, so we're gonna skip that. In some of the other videos later down the road as I'm upgrading, we'll go through fuel rail upgrade by the time we get to that point. All right, we did fuel pumps, tanks, fuel rails. The fuel lines, it's gonna be a -8 feed line, -6 return line. For some reason, people get upset about that, and I get at least 5 questions a year. Somebody is mad about me running 2 different size lines, and I've always tried to explain it. What engine can you name that returns as much fuel to the tank as it does coming back when the engine's running? If it's running, you're using some, anyway. And all the Ford stuff is 5/16 up, 1/4 inch back, so whatever. Got a 100 micron filter before the pump, 10 micron after the pump. These are just normal straight -8 and -6 hose ends, nothing fancy. I've got a couple of 90s for each. I'm not sure what I'll be using. And the fuel pressure regulator is going to be, I run a Mallory. I don't think that one exists anymore, so Summit makes their own version. We'll see how that goes. I don't expect much out of that. I can run a mechanical fuel pressure gauge, but I also run a sensor on the aftermarket fuel rail that I run, so that's an option. Same quick disconnects I was talking about for the Mustang. I may run these, I haven't really decided. I know I'm gonna run a stock rail for a long time, and I'll use those spring lock connectors, so I may skip this for now. Leave the feed and return lines kind of long so I can add these later. But I'm just gonna get into it and see where the day takes us, and we'll do what we can. Let's go. I haven't even started yet, and this box showed up. So it actually says 4 DFI, 550, and 435 on it. So these are correct for this. These make it much easier. Now we've got direct plug-in, -8, -6. So now I can use this rail with these fittings, and if I do the aftermarket rail, which also showed up, which I'm not even gonna worry about it. I know I can switch to that later, so I'm just gonna use this. I'll probably put a Kerbin fuel pressure regulator on it. I've got boxes of those, so we'll start with that, and that'll be more than enough to get this car up and running. Part numbers. It helps to have a pretty good place to work, and with all of this mess of trying to get the shop set up, moved around, I've never really had a good place to work where I can just do Pinto stuff, so I finally have a dedicated vise just for this car, and holy cow, I am excited. This is definitely going to make a track pass with that on there. It's solid too. I didn't think about that part. Oh well, movable vise. So this hose is pretty mangled straight out of the box. We're gonna give it a fresh cut. And the way I do that is just take some tape. This is Gorilla tape, but I've used duct tape before. Gorilla tape seems to work pretty well. And I tape it off. That's to hold all of the stainless braid together. Pull it real tight. Hit it with a chop saw or cut off wheel. And then we can start putting the fitting together. Peel this off. Go real easy to keep the braid tight so it doesn't fray real bad. Put a little extra tape on there that time. This one's permanent, so it gets the nicer fitting. This is a 90 and a swivel, so when it's all put together, you'll still be able to rotate the hose around. These are so much nicer. It's got this flare where the hose starts, and it keeps it from fraying so bad. That's a lot better than the Summit ones. Make sure the hose is bottomed all the way out. Put some grease on the fitting, just so that it goes together smooth and messy. These are nice fittings by comparison to the Summit ones. And when you're screwing this together, make sure the fitting isn't pushing the hose back out as you're doing it. We'll go back into the Pinto workstation. I'm genuinely shocked at how well that vise is working right there. I like it. Got to get all the junk cleaned out from where I cut it. And that's pretty much it. That's one. Really, out of the Dash 8s, I only have 2 to go and 2 Dash 6s. I'm going to be done early today. Alright, lines look good. The fuel pump is put together with some solid fittings. I'm not going to run that very long. That'll be to get it running, but it's cobbled together for now. Alright, I pulled these through the windshield. I kind of cheated. I don't want to move all the stuff off of my workbench there. And we're going to use this rail we had earlier. Dash 8 comes up. We've got an adapter there. That's just going to screw together and clip in. Dash 6, screw together, clip in, and we're done. This went way faster than I thought, so I get to go home a little bit early, and I'm pretty excited about that. Everything's kind of roughed out. The parts are in their general location, and this car's going to go through some changes. So it will get different fuel rails, it'll get different pumps, and the tank location, the fuel cell is going to change where it's at just a little bit. If you have any idea why I left the lines long, put your guesses in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye!